Hello and welcome to the Confusion Podcast, the last bastion of independent wrestling and independent wrestling podcasting. I'm your host, Rob Kammer. Hey, I know, guys, we've kind of redecorated the whole place right now. Moved away from the MLW branding. We are just confusing now, full of confusion. New song. We'll have the same outro, but whatever. This overall, it's gonna be the same aesthetic. We're just doing what I promised earlier in the year and giving a shiny new coat and really just kind of giving a refocus on the nature of independent wrestling. As such, this episode of Transition, big deal. We got a dual champ. I got another dual champ. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, this is freaking amazing. But Big Mama, NWA superstar Big Mama, is in the house. She is both a television and tag team champion there. And then in between, when the episode was recorded earlier in the week and when it drops on a Friday morning, she managed to pick up another championship as well. She is now the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood women's champion as well. So, if you were, when we have our conversation later on, if you wonder why we don't talk about it, that's the reason why. Is we recorded it on a Sunday. Tuesday night she wins the title, and then Friday morning the episode drops. So we didn't get to talk about that, but instead we still had a great talk about her coming through the NWA, and spent a lot of time talking about her role as a trainer. I wasn't aware that she was a trainer in NWF, so we talk about going from wrestler to trainer while still being an active competitor, and just her journey through that, and just the experience of watching women's wrestling grow over the last 20 years or so. So I think it's a fun talk, but it was just kind of a cool little anecdote to throw in there as well, that she ended up picking up another title in between our talk and when this drops. So once again, Confusion Bump getting things going. So I think we're starting off this here rebrand on the right foot, if you will. But yeah, so let's not take much more time to talk about this. Let's get those pesky ads out of the way. So give it 30 seconds, get yourself an energy drink, a coffee machine, some coffee even, and we'll be back with Big Mama. Hey folks, MLW Confusion's become a veritable hub of shopping and treats and all that sort of good stuff. Whether you need a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks in the form of Raise Energy, or maybe even top of the line ice makers, coffee machines, and other household appliances, or let's go crazy and you can even get WWE licensed apparel, all through my links section. All you got to do is wander down to the descriptor of this week's episode, check out the various links, click on them, and go shopping like you normally would. Heck, it's no difference. You just came in and just said Rob sent you. And that way, you can get the things you need, maybe even at a discount, and the podcast gets a kickback as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. And we are back, everyone. Confusion Wrestling Podcast. With me today, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think this was ended up gonna happen. I felt really weird plugging it for so long. It's almost like one of those Canadian girlfriend jokes, because we've been this podcast has been about 3 months in the making. Thereabouts. But I got her on. Our schedules finally jived. The world is no longer on fire. That's a lie, by the way, but whatever. She is the one-woman wrecking crew. She is one half of the NWA tag team champions, and also the NWA television champion as well, getting the belts out. She is Big Mama. Mama, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you so much. Our schedules did finally clash. I mean, it's on fire. It's just not a dumpster fire. So, we're rocking and rolling and getting it done.
It's just the meme of the dumpster on fire floating down the flooded street like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's just life in the moment. But no, no. Like as I said before we got on the air, like you remained in contact. You remained in contact. So I didn't totally feel like I was just being strung along. That just strung a string of bad luck. But
Yes.
we made it now. We got ourselves an episode in which I will promptly like be struck by lightning after this is over, and this will never see the light of day. That's that's how this is gonna go. But joking aside, it's been great. It's great to have you on, and through the process of this, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later. But like maybe it was great that we had to wait a bit because you weren't a dual champion before, or at least a dual NWA champion before, when we
Not,
started it.
it's been kind of a crazy ride the last week or so.
But yeah, so we'll talk about that. But like I always like to start out the program with the most original, never asked before question in the realm of wrestling podcasts. Like what drew you into the world of professional wrestling?
So the biggest thing for me is I've always loved sports, loved being physical throughout high school, grade school, everything like that. But I always loved theater as well. And pro wrestling is the absolute beautiful marriage of both of those. I get to legally beat people up and not go to jail for it and get my aggression out and still get to look. Big Mama is definitely not graceful by any means, and I will never be graceful, but look good doing it. So it's a very good marriage of the two. And went to the Northern Wrestling Federation for an entire summer of shows that a friend had invited me to, and we did a fantasy camp at the end of the summer, and I took my very first bump, and I was in love. Like I was ready, signed, sealed, delivered. Like let's freaking go. So
So you actually got to do one of those fantasy camps. I've seen them advertised, and like I've seen certain wrestlers that I follow, plug a fantasy camp that that they are a part of in some way, shape, or form. But I've never actually got to talk to anyone who's been a participant of it. So like, kind of walk us through that. Like, what's it like going through one of those professional wrestling fantasy camps?
so it's terrifying. I'm just gonna lay that out on the line because you're walking into this place and it's just like, how badly am I gonna get beaten up today? Am I gonna break something? Is anybody gonna try to punch me right in the face? Like you have all those things just like going through your head. And what you find at the end of the day, at least on my end of it, is it's very much so. It's a community of people that they want you to get the taste for it. And if that's all it is, and it's just that single day taste, great. It's an experience that's in your book that you can really call back to as you go through life. Or it becomes like what happened with me. It was love at first sight, love at first bump, and it can really bring new eyes to new talent that you can then develop from there. But I mean, I probably took more hits and more falls in like a 3 hour fashion than I think I did my entire first year of training as far as all in one collective session. And sitting up the next day was probably like the worst. I was just like, okay, no, we're gonna lay right here. We're not getting up right now. So I mean, it's the crash course, and it was everything I needed. And I know a lot of other people. I still talk to people to this day that they didn't sign up to wrestle after that. They didn't sign up anything like that. I still talk to them from that fantasy camp. How many years later? So it was just that cool of an experience in your life.
That's great, and it kind of sounds like they kind of. I don't want to use like this has like a negative context, like the way I'll probably phrase it, but like taught a lot of like respect for the business without necessarily dropping like the 3+ grand to
No,
go to wrestling
absolutely it
school.
does.
And
Absolutely it does.
because I don't think talking to people like being around the wrestling business, behind the guardrail 99.9% of the time, and then but like doing the podcast and talking with people of all facets, like I don't think people really understand. And like I will say, like I don't either because I've never had the opportunity to get into the ring, but like being like what just one bump can do to the body, especially if like especially when you don't know what you're doing quite yet,
Amen to that.
or like, oh god forbid, like running the ropes. Like that's like who would have thought like that, like what something that like practically starts out a match, it might be like one of the worst things on your body, on your body too.
It's
And
something you think is so easy, and then you're like, this is so much more in depth and complicated than you ever realized.
like it's just crazy, it's just crazy, but like it's but I'm really happy that it was a positive experience for you, and that like any good camp, it gave it gave you friends for life out of the deal too.
Yes.
So from the fantasy camp, it gave you the bug. So you trained with Northern Wrestling, or so how did the training go through there?
So I was going to college. So Cincinnati's my hometown, but I was actually going to college 4 hours away from Cincinnati. And when I walked into that fantasy camp, I had no idea, those grand delusions that I was going to sign up from there. So then it became okay. Well, I'm home for a month until school starts again, and then I'm sorry, mom. I was driving home every weekend to events to do extra training and get everything like that done. And then I finally broke to my mom that that I was training to be a professional wrestler, and literally she God bless her, she transferred all of my stuff home to where I was now in college up in Cincinnati and was finishing my degree on that end, and I it was full go from there. And I actually I did not have my first match, my first live match until a year, 2 years in, because we didn't have any other women, and it was a very old school, classic, traditional style of wrestling. So intergender wrestling back in 2006 to 2008 was just, it was done, absolutely. But it was not a big thing at the NWF. So yeah, 2 years of training, um, 3 nights a week, and you were there, you showed up. I lost a couple jobs during that period because I was gonna make it happen. So I mean, it's intense, it's grueling. I still go to this day, 2 days a week, and now it's cool on the flip side of now I'm getting to help others grow and start. So I mean, it's been a really cool journey, and definitely for anybody looking to get into wrestling, find a good training school. I would say that to anybody and everybody in the whole world. Like, find somewhere good to go that's going to teach you everything that you need to know.
Oh, most def. Like we're still hearing the horror stories of schools that may not be up on the up and up, or do
Yes.
just like chunks of it. I like, not to name drop other like guests of the show, but I remember talking to Sam Holloway, and he talked about he was basically touring schools like he would a college. Like he would go talk to
Yes.
everyone and go, and like one of the schools he went to, he wouldn't name, which is for the best, said like, hey, come to our school, we will have you on the show this weekend. And like, even as like, as someone who's like 18 years old is just going like, that doesn't sound safe. And like they never elaborated like what role he would play in the show. So he might not have had to touch anyone. He might have just been putting up the ring, and that was just their fancy way to do whatever. But like, just the fact that they were already promising him like spots on the show, like just kind of set
Yeah.
up a red flag when he had not taken a bump yet.
That is a gigantic red flag right there.
And so, like, do your research. Luckily, that's why like we have the internet nowadays, and it's very, very
Yes.
pervasive. So you can see, most schools are very good at putting over who they've trained that's done well in the business. So, the resumes are out there in the public to be seen now. But I want to kind of come back. So you are kind of doing a player coach role over there. It sounds like, was that something that you ever thought like you'd be interested in doing, or did that just kind of like, well, I'm still like, I've been training, like I've been in the business this long, and I'm still doing the training, and it just kind of fell into your lap?
So I mean, I'll be honest. I really truly never felt that I would be the one coaching anybody. I'm just gonna be completely forthright. Like, I've always loved being able to give back to others and help others. Like, that's definitely ingrained in me. However, like, it was that I still feel like a rookie, and I'll be at 19 years since I started training this year. Like I walk into anywhere that I go with an openness and a willingness to just absorb everything that I can get. And the really cool thing is now we've gone through a couple different fluctuations of groups of women at the NWF, and getting to see women that I started with from day one of their first training and see them learning each building block every single way and knowing that I was a part of each of those, it's really freaking cool. Like it's something that I never thought it was coming, but now that I'm doing it, it feels really natural. It feels awesome, and I definitely my plan even into the future is to continue doing that.
That is awesome. I've had the opportunity to talk with Merrick Brave of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, just because he's across the river from me, um, and just kind of like hearing his story, going from like, winding into that position, and now just seeing like how, and now like how he transitioned to that role, and now being dealing with the up and comers of the rest of the wrestling generations, and how like, watching that success for his students, or just watching people grow, has been amazing for him. um
When those light bulbs go off on the ones that you've definitely been working with so much harder, it's more rewarding than landing any move that I've been trying to work on or anything like that. Like it's a more rewarding moment to see that it clicked and what we've been doing worked.
and with this transition to a kind of with the training capacity, how has that kind of affected like how you work, like in ring? Like, does it have an effect, like a full on effect? Like, do you take it easy for yourself, or do you find that like, oh, I'm preaching things that I now have to, I should be doing myself because I got out of the habit, or just realize like, oh, like I was
It
never
is
doing that?
100%. You have to talk the talk and you have to walk the walk. It's very much so. I remember, especially when I was starting, there was a handful of people that I was working with that were just incredible ring generals. They were such good examples of being able to work with so many new talent, and being able to keep myself fresh on everything that's happening. I'll be able to look at my matches and just go, oh, why did that was well, okay, well, as you can see, as we can watch here, this is not what you're supposed to be doing, so let's both fix this. So it definitely it 100% keeps me up on my game, and it also gives me that little bit of a challenge. I feel like that I also want to pull them up to now. Okay, well, you're not going to be at this level, but let's get to halfway up to this level each time we go. So it gives me a really good challenge of not only challenging myself to pull them up, but making sure that I'm meeting and then exceeding each time with them.
I have to ask, have you had the opportunity to wrestle any of your trainees on shows? And if yes, what is that like? What goes through your head when you do that?
So I have at home. We have a smaller division right now just due to life changes. But at one point within the last 3 years, we had 9 total women in our division, and I had trained every single one of them, and one of their trainers. And so I would say I was probably the first match for 8 out of them, I believe. And then continuing on, like they're 2 of the girls I'm pretty much married to in the ring. Like we know each other so well, it is ridiculously crazy. And it's real, honestly, that first match moment with one of the people that you've been working with, it is the most terrifying yet exhilarating moment ever, because you're literally going, okay, I know that they know what they're doing. How is this going to play out in this scenario? And that moment when the match is over, what's happened, and you get to the back and you're like, dude, we nailed this. We nailed this. And if you dare question that, I'm gonna kick your butt again. However, like it's really cool to be able to see every little step of growth with them, And then they'll like the really cool transition that I've gotten to experience recently is now they're starting to run with the ball too, and they're taking over some of those aspects. So it's just like, dude, we've you're getting it. Let's keep going. All right. So it's a really cool experience, and it's I definitely for anyone who's been in the sport of professional wrestling, if you don't have that experience, please go to try to go get it because it's really awesome.
Would this something be something you'd be interested in once your in ring career ends, continuing on to this role and we'll say getting a little promotion out of the deal? A deal.
Oh, absolutely. I in the last 4 years, we have actually I took on. So I ended up in 2020. I became pregnant, so I've got a little one with me, and so that I had to step back out of the ring, obviously, for a period of time, and that really it gave me a cool moment of being able to take on some producing roles. And also, I promote an annual all women's event now every year, and that started um, right at that time was when we really kicked that off. And while it's so much more than you ever think of all the little things you have to keep together, um, it is a really really rewarding and really awesome experience that I do want to continue to do that once my body gives out and is like you aren't getting in the ring anymore.
And that's the thing I don't think people also kind of like realize is that there's so much more to wrestling besides throwing money at a problem, getting a ring, and then or being a wrestler and just town to town do this amazing match and kind of like move on. Like there are people all over top to bottom, and they're not always like yes, some people do it all, which like even I don't understand how they do, and I'm a guy that's terrible at delegating. Whether it's putting the actual match together, whether it's the Booker man, we'll call them, amongst like this, especially this day and age, the actual promotion aspect is how a job in and of itself too.
Yes.
That like I can't even bother to promote my podcast properly. I don't know how I'd promote a wrestling event properly. But yeah, it's crazy, go nuts, but it's like so fascinating, just kind of like seeing it kind of like all the little wheels that have to turn to make one
Yes.
event
All
go.
the cogs that I mean every if one cog stops moving, you're screwed. And people don't realize that in the puzzle pieces of it, like it all has to come together.
But kind of backtrack a little bit, but talked about training the women, and like obviously the last 10-15 years, like we've had a veritable explosion of women's interest in wrestling. Like we are get full women's rosters at a lot of companies, dare I say full women's promotions, whether it's been variations of Shimmer, Shine, Girl Fights, and there's hundreds of others that I have flown under my radar because I'm not plugged into the internet all the time and whatnot. um what's it kind of what like as someone who's been inside that and has had kind of a career to kind of like watch this insurge of popularity in women's wrestling, or popularity in women become wrestlers, like kind of like what's that like, seeing like being in the middle of that, going from like as you said you basically didn't get to wrestle for 2 years because intergender wrestling was just not a thing in that area, to like now where we do have it, like we can have several women's promotions throughout the United States. Like what is that like?
It is I'm grateful. That's probably the best word that I can say is it's one of the things that I so much love about women's wrestling. I love wrestling in general. Otherwise, I would not be here today. However, one of the things that I love and adore about women's wrestling is that we do all the same moves. We do all the same things that those guys are going out there and doing week in and week out. But we're able to do it with just that extra touch of power and flair and grit and grace. And it's that cherry on top that makes us different. And I love seeing all of these women that are up and coming right now and the explosion that has happened because now you're getting to see not every single women's wrestler is a diva. Not every single women's wrestler is a badass biker chick. Not every single women's wrestler is the giant monster. Like you're getting to see the whole vast array of everybody's characters and personalities and abilities. And I feel like for so long, I love the history of wrestling, but for so long, unless you fit into a very specific mold of woman, coming up from you just had to be the brawler and kill people in the stretcher through the Carney times, and then coming into the diva era and everything of that, it was always so singular. And now it's a whole vast, wide array of just character and development. And then getting to see how all that interweaves together and how people are playing off of each other with that. And yeah, I am grateful that that platform is here now. And on top of that, there were so few women that were really able to be mentors, I think, especially when I started, because no one was really a veteran at that point. Or if you were a veteran, it was just very much in that singular mold of that one style of wrestling. That now there's so many well-developed women's wrestlers that have the multiple personalities and styles that you have mentors available if you're reaching out and you're talking to the right people. So it's become it's just gotten so much bigger and so much more beautiful. I'm grateful and thankful for all of just the growth. So yeah, it's a good period of time.
No, I know it's like as an ardent supporter of women's wrestling, and I hate I'm getting to the point where like I hate even using the label women's wrestling because the women have caught up to the men.
Absolutely.
They are taking
Yes.
the same training. Like there's like if you have enough women, it's fine. Like you can have your own women's class, but like as a whole, like a lot of schools don't have enough women. Yeah, to do that. So like they're in there getting tossed around with the guys doing the exact
I
same thing. The guys
love training with the guys for
yeah,
the record. Just want to
and
put that out there.
and as you put it, like now we are seeing like you didn't put it as such, but like the full like integration of women into the wrestling. Because again, like it seemed like for the longest time, for the women, your gimmick was like some variation of like I'm a good guy, so therefore I'm also pretty, like whatnot. The heels were either like flat out monsters or they were just super vain.
Yeah,
They're just I mean, dare I say use the word bitches, but they're just
yeah.
happen to be bitches, and so
Snarky and bullies.
yeah, and like so now we're running the full. We've finally seen like the full range. Basically being put on equal footing is just there's a gender role,
It's really nice.
gender roles, and we're as you said, we're seeing the the variety, the full wrestling circus of characters. Whether it is still big bad bikers, but like we got pirate princesses running around. We do still have variations of the supermodel, but like they're turning it up to 11, a la like Ash by Elegance, etc.
Yes.
You know, um, and variations of the punk rock emo kid, and just anything you want out there. We still we don't necessarily have a female doink yet, but we got several clowns running around too.
There's some scary clown women.
I,
Abaddon could go kind of
uh,
go down
it's-
a
I
little
also
bit.
got zombies too, and I mean,
I'm
because
just
like
saying, terrifying.
yeah,
So
I mean, there's folks that like I don't want to run into in a dark alley like that,
yeah,
and that's not even counting a clown gimmick. Um, but I want to touch on something just kind of like real quick as well. But you talked about training training with the guys, and you kind of put over like working with the guys as well. Like what are your thoughts kind of like on intergender wrestling? I know it's still like half taboo out there, but like there's still like companies out there that either just go with it because the numbers game, or you had companies which like say like Chikara, where like in the later
yeah,
years, like that was just there was no divisions. You were a
correct.
worker, and like you're going to put on the match of the night. It didn't matter who it was
Yes,
against, whether it was a man, woman, or an ant.
I love it. No, I love intergender wrestling. I love training with guys. I love the intergender matches. Um, for me personally, if I'm in the ring with a guy, I'm gonna hit a guy as hard as I'm gonna hit a girl. I don't know that the women necessarily always appreciate that, but my game up regardless of who I'm in the ring with. And I personally love it, especially when the guys are like, "Oh, you're gonna step to me? Oh, baby, I can promise you, I'm gonna step to you." And it's just that little bit more of a challenge I feel sometimes because I have been in the ring with a handful of guys, thankfully not a lot, that have not had the best attitude when it came to that. But every time that we've walked out of the ring at the end of the night, they have a whole different personality about it. And the fact that I got to be a part of changing that decision was really cool. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna face off with anybody and everybody, and I am here for every single fight. Like I love getting in the ring with guys. So bring it on.
I just think it's funny that like certain folks may give you attitude because I mean you're not like 5'3", like
No,
like even within the realm of women's wrestling, you're one of the bigger folks, like in
it
terms
is.
of the
It's
average.
really funny because there are guys that are like, "Yeah, but you're a girl." I'm like, I literally outweigh you by a small child, and I'm 2 inches taller than you.
Yeah, especially in the world of indie wrestling, where like the size skews smaller. It's like,
Yeah,
I mean, I'll throw my sister under the bus. Like, I don't talk about her much, but like, this would be like me being like, "Hey, Allie, like I can beat you up just because you're a girl. Never mind that she's only 3 inches shorter than me, and I'm six. Okay, she's a little bit more now because age has worn down that spinal column. But like, but she's only 3 inches shorter than me. Like that's just and she's comparable in weight. Like that's just me like going talking smack to her just because she's a
yeah.
girl when like she can practically look me in the eye. Like that's sounds like poor life choices on my behalf. And that's why I became the mouth of the family and she was the brawn, just FYI, in case anyone
I
asks,
love it. I
because I
love it.
routinely got my ass kicked. I just learned to deserve it, that's all.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, but not enough about my interpersonal squabbles in family. Um, but we'll finally kind of like move on from training and whatnot, since we've been already kind of going about this like for a half hour. We've not talked about like what you've done, your like actual in ring career. Though like I'm going to jump in quite a bit just because this part is the most fascinating. You're nearly a 20-year veteran, but like you're just kind of like exploding out, at least on the national, like the full on national scene with coming into the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA. How did you get hooked up with the NWA? And then we'll kind of build up on your successes from there.
Absolutely. So I've always enjoyed the NWA's work. I've always enjoyed their matches. I've always enjoyed their talent. And if you want to talk about, especially current day NWA, they have such a strong women's division, to say the least. Like it is definitely an iron sharpens iron situation. Um, and I had actually gone down to several events, as far as networking and things of that nature. And Jordan Clearwater, the Golden Boy, actually started with my home company, and I came down to a show in Oak Grove, Kentucky, and was behind the scenes in that situation and had made some contacts. And then I went to, I'm gonna butcher this, so please don't judge me. uh, Samhain in Cleveland, Ohio, and that is when I really got introduced into several members of the office and the upper staff. And from there, it was really funny. Someone said to me the other night, "That was an overnight success," and I was just like, "Oh yeah, overnight. Oh my gosh, long night apparently."
So the 20-year workie of the year,
Yeah.
yeah, 20-year overnight success.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, and so then I went down to TV in Nashville in November, um, and it was rocket strap from there, and it was really good. It's just been really awesome. Like I said, the women in that division and the locker room in general, everybody is there to make everybody better, and everybody is working their butts off, and everybody is there to make it the most exciting, most celebrated thing of history in past, present, future of wrestling. And I've always really valued old school classic wrestling that still melds into the future, and that is 100% something that they are doing. So it's yeah, it's been a wild ride the last year.
Yeah, I mean, in my modicum of research, I do try to look up some like recent match listings just to be like, okay, yeah, they worked there, or they got to work this person. We can talk about what it was like to work so and so, and I'm just like I looked at like the NWA and just kind of like is like a couple match, not very many matches, and all of a sudden, bam, TV champion, and just like, huh, well, again, you're a 20-year vet, so like, it's not like you necessarily totally came out of nowhere, unless you're out in Cali or something, and you're not familiar with the southern Midwest scene and whatnot. Um, but specifically, kind of talking about the television championship, the title was most notably held before you held it by Max the Impaler, who let the title go to move on to another division, and is pretty much the up until the only champ the television title has ever known. How does that how does that make you kind of like feel as a competitor of like that the previous champion was the inaugural champion, and that they I don't want to use the word forfeited the title, because they definitely put the title down for another championship. It's not like they said this is garbage and walked off. Like Max obviously used it as a stepping
Absolutely.
stone. Max used it as a stepping stone to get another brass ring, we'll call it. But like, how does that affect you as a competitor? Now you're kind of like, I don't that now that you were there holding this championship, that the champion never lost, the inaugural champion never lost, and held it for quite some time.
So I do want to say first and foremost, I have faced off with Max the Impaler in Chillicothe, Ohio, and I 100% any day, anytime, any place. I want Max. I just want to lay that out very clearly because that match was left in a very precarious situation. We were both facing off with chairs at the end of that situation, and I want round two. And anybody that wants to make that happen, I'm on good authority that we are both down for that. So please bring that on. Um, Being able to carry and represent the World Women's Television Championship, it's funny. There's things that when you're setting goals for your life, you put on your bucket list, and being able to challenge myself to step up to that level of representation and platform was always something on there. And then not only did I have to go through one, but two, but three women to make that happen, even more so, it was one of those like, well, bring it on. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna keep on trucking. I'm gonna keep on riding. And there's a target on your back, and there's a lot of talk of, oh, just out of nowhere, where were you? You've put in 5 years. You haven't been here, and it's very much so. I'm here to show it to you, baby. Like, you can step up to me, and I will show you exactly why I'm standing here with this, and I will show you exactly why I will do so. So it's been a really cool experience of, I'm here now. What are you gonna do about it? Situation. So I love it. Let's go for it.
Oh, and if nothing else, like the perk of them not knowing who you are, rookie, is the fact that, again, 20-year vet, and the fact that obviously that just means that they have not been studying any tape or anything of the like.
Yes.
So anything that you do is. I don't. Okay, maybe not anything that you do, but your full move set, your full potential, especially in those big match situations, are a complete unknown to them. Like, that's
Very nice situation sometimes.
like, element of surprise can be your friend,
Yes.
or like, I dare I say, this could technically just be the high ground too, because you'd have the advantage. Because, well,
Yes.
oh yeah, I'm a rookie. You can't study any tapes of that, and like, this is 1, 2, 3 kid territory right here. Like, oh, he never didn't exist like 3 years ago, having bangers with Jerry Lynn, and like, oh,
Yes.
guess someone's not watching their tapes. Razor Ramon.
Yes.
Um, Though I feel like that's a reverse situation there, because the kid was smaller than everybody else, so everyone took him for granted. So maybe it's not the most apropos scenario for that. um, but as we put over the top of the as we put over the top of the show, so not only have you had the veritable rocket strapped to your back to go to the TV championship, like within the last handful of weeks, you got your hand. You are now one half of the tag team champions
It was
as
a
well.
happy birthday to me. Just saying this is my birthday present. So yes.
So I guess as a kind of fashion. So like one, what's it like? Oh, how does it feel like being launched into the tag team division now? Because that also came like out of nowhere. This is not.
Yeah.
This wasn't obviously not a regular team up for you or a team in general. And then we'll kind of segue into like the emotions going into holding like two being a dual champion and one of the longest tenured more prestigious companies in the country, if not the world.
And it's yeah, it was a very good birthday, to say the least. The biggest thing that I think blows my mind, but in like the best way possible, is that I say often, I'm sure people are sick of it on my promos, but I want to make history, and I want to be in the history books of pro wrestling. And the last, I've been doing so in a lot of different ways over the years, but especially this last year, like it is fully cemented. My names are in those books. Kenzie and I are, I believe, if I have done my research correctly, we are the first ever double champs in the NWA for the strictly NWA titles and championships, including the guys, because men have held double championships, um, but never together of all NWA championships, to my knowledge. There have been ones where one of them was a double champion and the other was a singles, or vice versa, things of that nature. Um, but I believe we are the first ever double. And I think the best phrase, as I said earlier, it's iron sharpens iron. We both recognize that we want to be at the top of our game, and you want the two powerhouses and the two. Not that scheming is a bad thing, but you have to play your cards right and have the right people in your corner. And by doing that, you bring the biggest, strongest girl that's going to throw people around, and you have the one that's been on top for how long? It's just good business. So I mean, it has been the pressure is there, but it's the kind of pressure that makes you want to step up, show out, because baby, you have to step to us. If you want to get in the ring with us, you have to keep up. So I'm excited. I am ready. Bring on all the challengers, because let's freaking go.
Well, on that note, especially if we're talking about making history, like it's early in the year for this. This is not a winter, early spring event, but like has the thought crossed your mind of like parlaying this into something like say like the Crockett Cup?
I would. I am hands down. I am all in. Let's go. I can launch some girls into some guys. All I'm saying. I am very well versed. I actually really thoroughly enjoy tag team action. It's something I've done a lot of over the years. And I have one partner that I've really developed a good bond with in the ring. In working with her at Riley Matthews, we were forces of nature, has taught me a lot of really good versatile things. And the beauty of it is you have strength and size, and you have quickness and agility. And when we can combine both of those together, you might be a guy, but are you really going to stop us? I'm going to say it.
No, I mean, regardless of the division, like a tag team that can cover all of the we'll call it fundamental
Yes.
bases of wrestling, whether it's the high flying, technical, brawling strength game. Like I think that makes like a very deadly combination. Like regardless of
Yeah.
said division, and then not gonna lie, like I do enjoy a big, big person, little person esque team because
Yes.
I love me the human variation of the fastball special. And if people aren't familiar with that comic book term, it's basically taking your teammate and then just launching them into your opponent. It was usually done with Colossus and Wolverine because Colossus was seven
Yes.
plus feet tall, and Wolverine traditionally was about 5 feet tall, and so Colossus would just grab him and chuck him, and Wolverine just claws out like claw first into like whatever he's coming at. But a number of teams have used variations of that over the years, even if it like the rocket launcher finisher for tag teams, or one of my personal favorites is the myriad of names that Tyler Black and Jimmy Jacobs have
Oh
used
my
over the
gosh,
years,
yeah,
whether it's the Age of the Fall, doing it for her, no team name like whatsoever. Like those two like were so creative in the way that, well, the current Seth Rollins would just throw Jimmy Jacobs at the opponents
yes,
was just like my level amazing, because also at least during the doing it for her stages, like I'm also a big fan of the involuntary fastball special, and like that's what it'd be like. Jimmy would be in the corner like trying to get women's phone numbers, and then Black would just grab him and chuck him into a spear. Or actually, a newer example, I guess, would be, and they're not teaming together, and that makes me sad. The Chaos Project of Dr.
yeah,
Luther and Serpentico, listening to them argue over a move, and then Luther just doing it anyway.
just do it.
That which like, consent's important, but like that's my level of humor in professional wrestling. Don't throw me. Too bad. You're a weapon now.
It's a
But
good size weapon, you know.
yeah, we use our body, like you as wrestlers, you use your bodies as weapons anyway, so you might as well use someone else as a weapon, and that protects your bump card. So that is one more bump your body can take before
I am
you need
a
to hang it up.
fan of that statement.
I just might also just be a terrible person, and there's a reason I am not an actual tag team champion. um, but no, I think that would be cool. Like I'm a big fan of like whenever tournaments are trying to determine the best. Like, well, obviously a champion should be in that tournament in some way, shape, or form. Like, yeah, maybe I can weasel out the like heavyweight champion and whatever, but that's a terrible thing. Like tournaments are to be the best, and seeing representation just period within the Crockett Cup would be
Yeah,
amazeballs. I mean, granted, as I said, it's a little bit early in the game, but we're just working under the assumption that you're forever champs since you're on the show right now. So,
hey, I'm here. I'm here for it.
but that would be great to see. Um, but yeah, so 20-year overnight sensation in the NWA, dual champ, basically 1 year within a year of the company functionally speaking. Um, like that's just crazy, go nuts. And just again, like the fact that it's I don't always agree with some of the stuff the NWA says, but then again, like that's every company. If you find me saying agree 100%, it's off. But like that's nothing to sneeze at. And like, do you view that as a certain level, like not that you've not earned it obviously, but do you view that as like you finally kind of like getting your flowers after working like just in Kentuckiana and Ohio for a vast majority of your career?
I 100%. It definitely feels like let's rock it, and I have finally reached my level of confidence to where I am now ready for it. I think is what the best way of where I framed it at this point is. I am at the peak and the prime of my time in the ring right now, and I'm my creativity, and I'm developing so many new moves and so many new partnerships, and I'm really grateful to even be able to be in this sport long enough to have reached that. So it's very much a flowers moment of I have done everything that I am supposed to do, everything that I have wanted to do, and now I'm at the top, and I'm just going to make it go even higher.
There we go. I glad to see it. Kind of go ahead and wind things down here a little bit. So, like, what do you got? What's on the agenda for the near future? Where you go? Where are you going to be at? Or heck, like, I'll even like just open up. Like, what are the immediate goals? Whichever. But definitely put over. Where can we go see Big Mama next?
So come see Big Mama live first and foremost. Coming up, we have Hard Times in Dothan, Alabama. Come see me at NWA, baby. I actually am traveling weekly at this point, which is amazing. Um, so this Tuesday, I will be in Irvine, California for Championship Hollywood, making my debut this Tuesday night. So be sure to come on out if you're out on that coast. It is not a frequent occurrence. So come on out, see Big Mama. I'm taking a ride out there. We all know that those are the best roads for motorcycles. Let's be honest. So I'm here for that. It's going to be a good trip this week. I will be in Bethel, Ohio, for the Northern Wrestling Federation, my home base, this Friday. So it's a busy week, and I'm absolutely thrilled about it. And then again, hard times. I will be defending my women's television championship for Dynamic Championship Wrestling in Piqua on March 1st in Ohio. So, Micah, we've gone toe to toe a couple times or two, but I'm going to be primed and ready this week, so I apologize for next week. Just saying. And basically, if you check out my social media, I literally put my entire feed of everywhere I'm going. My next big hit after Hard Times, however, April 5th, Revolution Rising 4, my fourth event that I have personally promoted and put together on my own end. We will be in Fairfield, Ohio for the Northern Wrestling Federation, co-sponsoring with the PGWA. For our annual all women's event, and I will be defending my Northern Wrestling Federation Women's Revolution Championship there as well. So it's busy, it's booked, and it is looking good. As far as goals, it's funny. I crossed a lot of those off this year, so we're going big goals though right now. I want to go to Japan. I definitely want to make that happen. Their reverence for the sport of professional wrestling is one of the most incredible sights to hear, see, everything. And I want to be able to experience that. And I want to keep rocking and rolling with NWA. Kinsey might get really pissed off at this next statement, but I'm just saying, I've got the two. I mean, the Grand Slam is it's there. We're working together. We're working hard, and I want to keep establishing that. But I'm not saying that it's not off the bucket list here.
I didn't want to plant those seeds of dissension, but I did want to say, like, well, you're already a dual champ, like tri champ. But I also didn't want to like come back later and be like, oh, that Confusion podcast ruined a perfectly good tag team, and
we're a very good tag team, and we are learning and growing and really dominating, and I hope to continue to do that. But I'm just saying, there's another slot in history that can be filled right there. I'm not saying right now. I'm not saying next week. I'm just saying, putting it on that bucket list at this point.
There you go. Where can we find you on the social media and or get merch if we can't see you in person?
Absolutely. So right now, One Woman Revolution and all of my t-shirts, everything of that nature, ProWrestlingTees.com, Big Bad Mama. And then all of my social medias to try to make this easy for everybody. Twitter, Instagram, X, Facebook, fans of Big Mama, Big Bad Mama 06. Because I am old and I have almost 20 years.
Well, Father Time is undefeated, and
I feel like it's only gotten better in the ring in the last 20 years. So
yeah, well, but also on the flip side, like, I not asking your age, but we'll say the adage nowadays is 40 is the 40 is the new 20. So like a lot of wrestlers are hitting. Like I say, a lot of wrestlers are really starting to hit their strides a lot later in life. I say with air quotes.
Yes.
Or you got guys like AJ Styles who just like managed to maintain like all the momentum he's had almost for
years and years. Oh my god, yes.
But if I do my due diligence proper, I'll try to throw at least most of those links, at least the social medias, into the strippers. So hopefully it'll be a easy one click thing, or at least a copy paste. I don't know how the HTML works for some of these plugs when it goes off to like your pod chasers and whatever other things. But dual champ, tri champ, maybe future Crockett Cup. I don't know, but the important thing is like we finally got to make this happen, and I'm really glad to get to sit down and talk to you. And I'm not gonna lie, throwing it out there, I didn't expect to start the party talking about training and promoting and all that stuff. But that's the beauty of an unscripted podcast. Like I regret nothing.
The more roles you know, the better off you are. That is 100% something I believe completely in my soul. The more roles you do, the more you're gonna go, the further you're gonna go.
But thank you, Big Mama, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
The Confusion Wrestling Podcast is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to help support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is helpful as well, because word-of-mouth advertisement is very important for us small podcasts. My social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky are at The Nova of Cass. That's TheNovaOfCass, and Facebook is MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual tip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, go to patreon.com/Casanova, that's CASSONOVA, where for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Chris Zach, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast store on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the affiliate links in the description below. For business inquiries such as ads, sponsorships, and etc., please email rzkamer, Kamer, at comcast.net. Thank you all for listening.